Good morning, everyone. This is G, and I'm back with another video. So I'm still learning this setup. It's new for me. I think at the moment, for quality of sound and for my own personal comfort, I'm probably gonna do it like this, from a little bit closer um, to the computer. So yeah, my headscarf here is gonna be cropped out a little bit, at least until I get a proper computer chair. Then I can move up or down, and then sort of get my head fully in frame. The camera here is part of the computer, so I can't move it. And if I move back, then it's going to be harder to hear me, and I'll end up pretty much shouting um, just to be heard, and I don't want to do that. So, thank you to everyone who's been giving me suggestions in the videos. I am taking them into account, but I've also got to take into account the realities of my situation. So I'll probably record like this until I can get a good computer chair that I can set so that I can lower it enough so that my entire head ends up in the frame. And I'll also, again in time, get a mic, probably a mic to wear over here or something, and some headphones so that the sound is clearer. Okay, so it's going to take me a little bit of time. I spent many coins on this, so got to get my coin purse back up. But I will take your um, suggestions. So thank you again so much for those who made those suggestions. If you have any, please let me know in the comments, because how am I going to improve as a content creator? If I never hear from you, if you never tell me what you find wrong or how I can improve, how am I going to improve? Right? So long as we're all uh, respectful about it, I have no problem with helpful hints or suggestions. So thank you all for making those suggestions. And thank you, everybody. I think it's about 322 right now. People who are subscribed. So thank you all so much for that. I am sincerely humbled. So, see, real life. And I can't close the windows because it's already hot in here because I turned off the fans. If I close the windows, I'll probably faint. And I don't want to do that. I overheat easily. So, there's always going to be some noise. It's New York City. It's the city that never sleeps. Even when we were under curfew earlier this month, thanks to our elected oppressors of Bill de Blasio and Governor Andrew Cuomo, there were still noises going around because it's New York City. We don't sleep here. There's no such thing as sleep or noiselessness. So yeah. But that's the way it is at the moment. But again, as I was saying, thank you all so much. I hope that everybody is doing well. It's Saturday. I think today's Saturday, right? Saturday. It's a little after 9 here in the city. So I wanted to address a criticism or a rumor that I've been hearing online, which is that Dave Filoni, right, who's part of Star Wars, is the mastermind behind Clone Wars, and in particular is the mastermind behind the character of Ahsoka Tano, who has become a beloved figure in the Star Wars universe, especially for Clone Wars fans, and who is, at least at the moment, scheduled to appear in Season 2 of The Mandalorian. There were people saying that he shamed Star Wars fans when he gave this sort of talk at, I believe it's the National Women's, something about National Women in Technology or IT, something to that effect. In fact, let me look at it one more time so I can get the name. Come on, computer. 1 second. Come on, phone. Yeah. Where is it? Oh, here we go.
They even ever have in Canada.
So, it's the... Jesus, this is hard too. It's the National Center for Women in in information technology summit, basically. All right, so this Women in IT summit, and some people were saying that his comments were shaming.
He had an apprentice.
Damn it. Some people were saying that his comments were shaming Star Wars fans, right? Now, having listened to the clip, which I've unintentionally played twice, and I will include in the description so that, excuse me, and I will include in the description so that you guys can all check it for yourself. I don't see where he shamed Star Wars fans. He brought up criticisms that he's received and he responded to them. I did not see or hear any shaming language. He didn't use any profanity. He didn't call fans who criticized him or criticized his characters, in particular Ahsoka, man babies, like, say, John Campea did. Let's not forget that John Campea also went on a sexually profane rant back in January about Ahsoka Tano. He did this very sexually profane rant about her that went nowhere, right? Which is generally insulting. So he certainly didn't do that. Dave didn't do that. He didn't do what's her name? I think it's Lena O'Brien. I think she's some sort of game journalist or whatnot. Did recently. I saw this on a memology video where she put out a tweet stating that anybody who was critical of the Abby sex scene, which I did a video about, which is a previous video, the Abby sex scene in The Last of Us 2, anybody who was critical of it was basically a virgin. So she engaged in virgin shaming. And then, of course, she half-heartedly apologized for it when she got enough backlash, saying that she understands that there are plenty of people out there with valid reasons why they can't or don't have sex and are virgins. Yeah, that does not make up for what she actually said. She was virgin shaming. She was shaming people who were critical of the Abby sex scene, and it's high school. It's basically what she did. It's high school. It's immature. That is shaming, right? The purpose of shaming, especially in the social media space, is to either insult people and make them angry, or to shame them, make them feel bad, and so they won't speak up for fear of being made to feel bad again, right? It's a silencing technique, and that's not what Dave did. If there's some other clip that's out there that I don't know about, please let me know. But from the clip I saw, which is about a little over 3 minutes long, I don't see where he shamed anybody. Now, he does bring up 3 points and 3 criticisms, and I'm going to respond to each one of those. But again, within this 3-minute clip, I don't see where he shamed anybody, or shamed fans, or shamed anyone else. He's just responding to criticisms that he's heard or that he's received. So the first criticism that he talks about in the clip is the criticism that Star Wars is for kids, and this is not a good thing, right? People saying, "Oh, why do you make Star Wars for little kids?" First of all, in my opinion, if you're saying this to Dave Filoni of all people, do you really understand Star Wars? I mean, this is the guy who with George Lucas is behind Clone Wars, right? Clone Wars Season 3 on is incredibly dark, and it just gets darker and darker and darker and darker. Number one. So I don't really think that's a fair criticism to level at Dave Filoni personally. Now, my personal view of Star Wars, or of kid media in general, is that unless you're talking about Sesame Street or Blue's Clues or something, no such thing really exists, in my personal opinion. I think about the kid shows I grew up with, such as Batman, Batman the Animated Series, X-Men, Gargoyles. These weren't necessarily kid-friendly or for kids in my estimation. They were cartoon adaptations of the comics, and certain elements from the comics had to be toned down because your audience is predominantly children, right? For example, the knife fight between Storm and Callisto, it's a knife in the comics. in the cartoon, it's like lightsabers. I'm not even joking. It's literally lightsabers, right? So you gotta tone stuff like that down. But even then, depending on the show, like Gargoyles, at least in the beginning, did feature real guns being used. In fact, the episode Deadly Force was about gun safety when Elisa gets shot, right? 8 episodes into the first season, and your lead female is shot and nearly dies, and she's shot by accident by one of her own allies. Can you really say that's for kids? I don't know. So I really personally don't believe in this for kids argument for much of anything, right? But the argument Dave brings up, and I think he makes a great point, is that whenever he gets this criticism that Star Wars is for kids and that's not good, or that it's too kiddie, what he says is that he ends up asking the person who makes this criticism, well, when did you first see Star Wars? And the response, at least from his account, the response that he typically gets is, oh, I was 7 years old and my dad took me to the theater, right? So it kind of proves Dave's point. This critic, right, whoever this person is, right, saw the film when they were under the age of 10 years old, right? Not even 13, 10. Well below double digits if you first saw Star Wars and fell in love with it at the age of 7, right? In this example Dave gives. So it proves Dave's point that how can you say Star Wars isn't for kids when you yourself saw and fell in love with it as a child? And Dave even explains that if you make it this overly dark thing, I will admit, given Star Wars Season 7, that he says that the Star Wars shouldn't be overly dark is hilarious in my opinion. And it's slightly hypocritical, but that's just me. But he mentions that, if you make it this, I guess, overly dark or overly adult thing, that, you're going to be taking this from kids. And I think he has a point. Again, I personally don't agree that Star Wars is for kids. I think it's more in all ages thing, right? There are going to be elements that kids like or understand, right? Characters that they relate to, and there are going to be elements that people who are teens or who are adults or have had certain life experiences will relate to. And then you have certain things like Clone Wars, which definitely has a certain tone in mind, and I think that tone, generally speaking, especially season 3 on, really appeals to someone who is older, at least in mindset, right? Has an older mindset, right? Like if you wanted to say like the Clone Wars film, not the first film by Gendy, what's his face, the guy who made Samurai Jack, not that one, but the first Clone Wars film, and then like the first 2 seasons of the Clone Wars, I'll give you that is probably more lighthearted and probably for your, Saturday morning cartoon crowd, right? Which is typically going to be little kids under the age of 10, right? But season 3 on, that's definitely for people who are older. The themes it covers, the way Ahsoka grows, the way all the characters grow, the level of violence, right? It's definitely made for an older audience. But that's just me, right? So I kind of agree and I kind of disagree with Dave on this one. But his retort, right? His response to this criticism of Star Wars should not be for kids, and asking the person, well, when did you see Star Wars? And the person admits that they were a kid when they saw it. Yeah, he's absolutely right in that regard. He's absolutely right there. So on that particular example that he gives, what is there to complain about? He's using the person's own response to prove his point. You saw it as a kid, so why can't other kids see Star Wars and fall in love with it as children? So on that point, he's absolutely right in my estimation. I just disagree with the idea of Star Wars being for kids. I think it's more for everyone. And then, of course, there are certain elements that are definitely intended for certain demographics. Again, Clone Wars being intended for a much different, much older audience, in my personal opinion. So there's that. That's the first point that he brings up. The second point is of creating female characters with the intent of appealing to girls. And of course, he brings up Ahsoka, who is, his best creation, at least as of yet. Right? That's the character everybody knows him for. That's the character he himself admits that he's most attached to. That's his baby. Everybody knows this about Dave, right? So he brings up how, yes, when he and George Lucas, started working on Ahsoka, they definitely wanted to appeal to girls. They wanted girls to have a character that they could relate to, that they could believe in, and that there was criticism of Ahsoka at first. That's very true. She was not well received initially, but he mentions the criticism that he's at times, at least he says he's heard at times, which is, oh, what about the boys? And he brings up the fact, and he's absolutely right here, that when you make a cool, interesting character, she'll appeal to boys and girls. And he's absolutely correct on that. He's right. Ahsoka is a beloved figure now for male and female fans of Star Wars. I've watched many a Star Wars video about her or about Clone Wars, and there are people, be they male or female, right, who will say, look, when she first debuted, I hated her. She was bratty. I found her annoying as hell, and now she's my favorite character. I cried when she left in season 5, or I cried at the end of season 7, right? I also saw this video with Ashley Eckstein. I think it was by TV Guide, and even she brought up how Ahsoka was made to appeal to a female audience, how it was a big deal at the time. Remember, this is like 2008, right? That they were going to be having a lead female character who was a Jedi. Yeah, I can talk, I swear. It's not that they had never had a lead female or a prominent female character before, right? They had Leia, they had Padme, right? But they hadn't had at least from what Ashley says in this interview with TV Guide, they hadn't had a female Jedi character who was really well known and part of the big goings on, right, as a lead. They had female Jedi, but no female Jedi who were lead characters. And Ahsoka was to be the first, and even she brings up how there was a lot of pushback about the character initially. Now, here's my opinion of the pushback on characters such as Ahsoka, and as I'll bring up later, because there's a third point Dave brings up in the character of Rey. Here's the thing. You're always going to receive criticism and pushback. Sometimes fairly, sometimes unfairly. Right? When you introduce an unknown element, a completely new character to an existing franchise, right? If the franchise is new, everyone is new. So no one's going to complain because no one knows anything yet. But when you throw in characters who previously did not exist, let's be honest, Ahsoka did not exist prior to the Clone Wars. She was put into the story to help Anakin's story, to help better explain his downfall. In my opinion, Clone Wars is in many ways trying to characterize and maybe perhaps redeem the characterization of Anakin in the prequels, because many people didn't like Anakin's characterization in the prequel films. So in my opinion, a huge part of Clone Wars is to show Anakin as this great Jedi, as this great war hero, and better explain, his downfall in the films. Because in the films, right, at least from what people say, I can't say I've seen it, but I've seen a few clips. But from what people say, right, Anakin was very whiny, and he was just an annoying brat. And so it may, at least from the criticism I've seen from the videos and comments I've read, it seemed to have made a lot of people, it made it difficult for a lot of people to necessarily feel for Anakin, right, or to understand why he had this downfall. But Clone Wars explores his character more by putting him in this years-long conflict, so it's a slow burn of sorts to his final fall, right, in Revenge of the Sith. And I think from a storytelling perspective, I think it really saved the character, at least for me personally, of Anakin Skywalker, because it did build up and it did show what he was like before, all of these his fear, his hate, and all this stuff took over. You get to see him built up slowly, and then slowly, season 5 on, he falls. It makes more sense. I think from a storytelling perspective, it really, really, really helps because it fleshes out the character more than the films did. So there's that, right? But when you introduce in a completely unknown new element who did not exist previously, let's be honest, Ahsoka was invented to help Anakin's story. She had no presence and no mention in, I guess you would say at that point would be the first 6 films, right? Because she did not exist, right? She didn't exist. Let's just be honest. They created her out of thin air to help Anakin's story, and it happened to be, a great decision, but she was indeed a complete unknown. And when you introduce an unknown character who has no previous backstory or connection to anybody, right? And when you sort of ham-fist a connection by, for example, taking Ahsoka and conveniently making her Anakin's Padawan, right? Yeah, you're going to invite criticism, especially for those who are lore hounds, who know their Star Wars inside and out, who will read it like the Bible, who will watch the films like it is like it is holy text, and will go, no mention of her in the films, no mention of her in the expanded universe. Who the hell is this character? And guess what? I can't fault people for having that type of response when an unknown character, an unknown element is kind of just randomly made up and shoehorned in, which is what Ahsoka was. And I like the character, but that's what she was. It just happened to work out because they actually had her go on this hero's journey, on this coming of age story, right? But let's not forget how Ahsoka started out, and it's very similar with Rey, which I will get to later. But with Rey, I think the criticism was less that she was a female lead and more of the fact that all these characters, Poe, Finn, Rey, were complete unknowns. You don't know anything about them. They have at best very tangential connections to everything previously established, so they're unknown and people are afraid of the unknown. So yeah, people are going to be pretty dang critical. Them's the breaks. So there's that. And I would also like to point out, in my personal opinion, that here's something Dave, or rather I wish Dave had sort of acknowledged a bit more, which is the fact that Ahsoka was not liked in the first two seasons. Now, I'm not bothered by the fact that Ahsoka's a brat in the film and in the first 2 seasons of the Clone Wars. The whole point is that she's supposed to grow out of that and become a different person. And she did. So from the storytelling perspective, it's fine. But people were perfectly within their rights, and I think very valid in their criticism of bratty young Ahsoka. She was annoying. That was the job of the character, to be annoying, to be an annoying bratty teenager. What I wish Dave had acknowledged is that it is not the bratty teenage Clone Wars film, Clone Wars Season 1 and 2 Ahsoka that people like. No one liked her. People like the Ahsoka from later seasons in Clone Wars, right? They like Rebels Ahsoka, right? Where she's a grown adult. And she's the mentor and the teacher and the experienced warrior, right? That's the Ahsoka people like. It is not bratty Ahsoka. I don't know of anybody who sincerely likes bratty Ahsoka. Had Ahsoka remained a bratty character throughout the seasons and then grown up into a bratty woman in Rebels, people by and large would still hate the character. Right? We have to acknowledge that Ahsoka changed. She grew out of her brattiness. And that's the Ahsoka, the not so bratty Ahsoka, the one who is humbled by her experiences and becomes stronger, the one who finds the strength to walk away from the Order, right? The one who survives Order 66. It's that, I guess you'd say, darker in many ways, Ahsoka Tano, right? This one who's weighed down by guilt and loss and regret and all this other stuff, right? This much more humbled character, right? who's lost a lot of her arrogance, right, and her brattiness and her snippiness. That's the Ahsoka people like, from the best I can tell, right? It's not the 14-year-old brat. It's the 18-year-old warrior. It's the 30-some-year-old warrior. That's who they like. Not bratty Ahsoka. As she stayed that way, the character would still be hated. So I just kind of wish that Dave had emphasized that what people liked about Ahsoka's character was her growth out of her bratty stage and into a well-rounded, mature, and certainly traumatized adult. So there's that. So there's the second point. Now the third point that he brings up is about Rey. He talks about how awesome Rey is, and how he at times gets pushed back from writers that, oh, they already have a female character, why do they need another one? Okay, on the writers one, he's talking about writers, not fans, writers. And this is something I have heard about happening in writing rooms and in creative brainstorming sessions and whatnot. You know, people saying, do we really need another female, or do we really need another this or another that when we already have one? Okay, so that's not a criticism of fans. That's a criticism of the people he's working with. Now, on what he brings up about Rey, yes, he's shilling hard for Rey. I don't know if what he says about Rey being awesome and impressing Han and defeating Kylo Ren so easily are his true thoughts on the character. I can't read the man's mind. I don't know if he honestly believes what he's saying. If I had to make an educated guess based on his magnum opus character of Ahsoka, I would say that, at least again in my opinion, which is certainly going to be biased, I think Dave was just telling these women what they want to hear and just maintaining Disney's official party line, which is that Rey is the bestest ever. To quote Doomcock, I don't really think Dave believes what he's saying when it comes to Rey, and it's not because I want him to believe Rey is a bad character. It's because I'm comparing Rey to Dave's character of Ahsoka Tano, and Ahsoka as a character, especially with the way her story goes, is the very antithesis of Rey, right? And Dave is the mastermind behind that. The whole thing about Ahsoka is that she loses a lot. She gets defeated a lot in the beginning of her story, right? She has this very egotistical, arrogant attitude of, I'm the best thing around here, right? I'm the chosen one's apprentice. Respect me. And no one does. Right? She gets into battles way over her head very early, like with Ventress or with Grievous, and she loses, right? She ends up on the back foot. She loses or she nearly gets killed. There are a few times where she flat out disobeys Anakin, and Anakin chews her out for it. And guess what? Those instances are treated as her being in the wrong. So, excuse me. So, Ahsoka was not treated as this OP character the way Rey was. Ahsoka in the beginning of the series has this arrogance, right? Has this egotism where she thinks she's the most OP person around, but really she's not. Shitty noises. Right? And she gets humbled really quickly. In fact, of all the teachers that she has, and it's failure that actually teaches her a lot of her lessons, and it humbles her. And then as she continues on in the story, right, she grows from her mistakes and her losses and her humility, and she develops confidence. She loses the arrogance, but she develops confidence, and that's when she starts getting decisive victories and improving as a person and as a warrior, right? But Rey didn't have that, right? Rey didn't have that growth that Ahsoka did. And some may say, well, Ahsoka was on a show that ran for over 10 years. Okay, but you can build up a character and have them and tell their coming of age or their hero's journey story in one film. Many films are like that. Most films are like that, right? There's a beginning, a middle, and the end, and an end. The hero starts one way, they end up another way. You could certainly do that. You could tell Ray's hero's journey, I guess you would say, within 3 films, which take years and years and years to make. It's not as if they released one film, and then 2 weeks later there's another film, and then a month later is that. No, no, no. These films are spaced out. It takes years to make one Star Wars film, so they could have done better, and they should have done better. Right now, as I said personally, there was going to be criticism and concern because you were introducing new characters in Rey, Finn, and Poe, and all the other stuff into a long established, well known franchise that has several iconic characters: Luke, Leia, Obi-Wan, Darth Vader, Anakin, Ahsoka, R2D2, C3PO, Chewie, Han, all this other stuff, right? So when you're introducing, again, these unknown elements into this very well-known thing, there are going to be people who are very, very, very critical of it. And again, I don't think that's entirely wrong. Can the criticisms at times be overly critical? Yeah. But I don't think being critical in and of itself is wrong. Right? And to me, what Rey's problem is as a character, what all those problems is as a character, is the fact that, one, she doesn't really go through too many challenges. She doesn't really have to earn a lot of her victory. She doesn't really have to learn much of anything. She doesn't really have to grow and change. Right? The only thing that really changed across 3 films is that she took the last name of a now dead family that she was never a part of. She wasn't adopted. She didn't marry into the family. How the hell can she claim the Skywalker name? It makes absolutely no sense. It's not as if like Ben dying, right, said, "Oh, you must carry the Skywalker name now, or the Solo name now." Or it's not like Luke when he died said, "Rey, you are the last Skywalker. Carry on our name well." No, none of that happened. She does randomly things. Oh, well, I'm taking Luke and Leia's lightsaber, I'm burying it in the sand here. Might as well just call myself a Skywalker. Why not? Why not? And you wonder why fans got upset? You wonder why fans got upset. The problem with Rey is that they were trying to basically retell. I think the problem with the whole original, not the original, the sequel trilogy, was that they were basically trying to retell the first 3 films. And they were denying the fact that they were trying to retell the first 3 films, although they totally were. And they were totally saying, "No, we're not copying the past." And everybody's like, "Yes, you are." Like, "No, we're not." "Yes, you are." And they were trying to make Poe Han Solo. I don't know what the hell Finn is supposed to be. Is he Princess Leia? I have no idea who he's supposed to be. I think he's an interesting character, right? As former stormtrooper and becomes a Jedi and all that. But they dropped the ball with his character. Let's just be honest, they did. And then with Rey herself, she's meant to be Luke Skywalker as a woman. That's not a character. That's a gender swap. That's the problem. She's not a well-developed character. She's hardly a character. And the funny thing is that I think that with the sequel trilogy characters, especially Rey, right? The one benefit to how badly they were wrecked in the films is that if you get someone like a Dave Filoni on this, and you allow him to do his work, and you allow him and his team to do their work and to do it uninterrupted, I think he can salvage these characters. They're so mucked up, it can't get worse, I don't think. I hope not, at least. It's like when you've just hit rock bottom, right? The only place you can go is up because you can't get any lower. And that's honestly how I feel about these characters when it comes to how they were written and how poorly they were handled in the films, right? But yes, when Dave brings up Rey in this, yeah, I totally think he's shilling. And as much as I don't like shilling, and I don't like it from him, It's also something I expect. He's still a Disney / Lucasfilm employee. He's gonna toe the party line. So I'm less concerned with what he says and more concerned about what he does. So we'll just have to wait and see what he does next. I think, for example, if you had taken the trilogy films and just made them about Ahsoka, made a trilogy film series about her, everybody would have been like, "Take my money, take it, take it, take it," because Ahsoka is a beloved character, because people know her, people have grown up with her, they relate to her, they connect to her. You don't have that initially. When you introduce a new character, you have to build that up. And it takes time to build that up. And time is not something Disney really has at the moment because they keep mucking it up. They keep shooting themselves in the foot with bad products. But long story short, right, to sort of wrap it all up because I've been going at this for like 30 plus minutes now, I don't see where Dave insulted or shamed anybody. He did not use shaming language. He simply responded to criticisms. Now, am I totally on board with his responses? No. That's why I made a 30 plus minute video ranting about it. But, again, that's not shame. Disagreeing with your audience is not shaming them. There's a difference. And I think that, what's the word I'm looking for? We live in such a reactive social media world at the moment that we take any sort of disagreement, right? Any sort of opposition. I wouldn't really say an attack, but an opposition to our perception of things as an attack and as, oh, I'm being shamed. The creator is shaming me. The creator is insulting me. And to be fair, a lot of creators do that. It's sad but true. Ryan Johnson in particular, right, is one. But at least from what I've seen, if there's anything else out there that, and maybe I'm missing context, please let me know. But from what I've seen, I don't think Dave is one of those people to do that. And at least in this clip, I don't see where he did that. There's no shaming language. There's no insulting language. He's simply responding to criticism. That's it. He has the right as a creator and as an employee of Lucasfilm, he wants to keep his job, to respond to criticism about the product. There's nothing wrong with that. Believe it or not, there is this crazy thing called respectful disagreement, right? I know, it's shocking. It's a shocking concept in today's world, but it is indeed possible. You can disagree with the creator. The creator can disagree with you, and it doesn't have to devolve into insults or a shouting match. Shocking, I know. But anyway, that's the very long video. It's nearly 40 minutes long. So I hope you're all well. I hope you all continue to be well. And I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.